We're probably all super tired of Zoom, and but it's still with us and it will continue to be with us for a while. This is titled officially Top 10 Tips for Chorus Zoom Rehearsals. But really what it is, it's top 16 tips for chorus Zoom rehearsals because I went a little nuts. And actually, a better title for this thing would be Building Community Through Online Music Making, because it is less about tech and more about process, but there also are quite a few technical tidbits throughout. We will try to give you something new to bring to your Zoom rehearsals. And I am a conductor, so that means I usually wave my arms in front of people, and that's how I communicate, not through this screen here. And this is what I usually do pre-COVID: conduct chorus and orchestra or ballet or whatever it is I'm conducting. I'm there in person with the folks. But of course, when COVID hit, I did a lot of different things. I conducted in a parking garage with a mask and way too many things over my ears, my headphones and my mask and my, everything. My microphone was over my ears. I conducted on Zoom. Sometimes I looked like this when I was doing it, which was totally afraid of what I was doing. But honestly, most of the time, this is how I felt on the Zoom. And you see, I'm here in the yellow room in this very real screenshot of how I felt often during Zoom rehearsals. So I floundered a lot, made a lot of mistakes. I learned how to accept imperfection, kind of. And I mourned a whole lot the loss of overtones and of human contact and of hearing beautiful harmonies. So when you're crafting your Zoom rehearsals, and the first thing to know is that a Zoom rehearsal is not a rehearsal. It is a very different beast. And it's really important to make that distinction, because if you try to run a Zoom rehearsal like you run a regular rehearsal, or if you try to participate in a Zoom rehearsal like you regularly participate in a rehearsal, you're going to be sorely disappointed, right? So you have to adjust and understand that a Zoom rehearsal is completely different. And the starting place for every Zoom rehearsal is the mission of your organization. So for example, at Wintergreen, the mission of Wintergreen was: Wintergreen Music inspires, educates, and welcomes audiences, students, and professional musicians alike through the transformative power of music. Nowhere in that mission statement does it say we give concerts to people in a live venue. So I was able to use that and go, okay, how can I inspire, educate, and welcome audiences in this platform? The Richmond Symphony Chorus that I conduct says the Richmond Symphony performs, teaches, and champions music to inspire and unite our communities. So I was able to draw on that and go, communities. I created the Community Connections program with all of those various choirs. Teaches, champions, inspires, unites. I took all of those words and created Zoom rehearsals and just sort of left out that little performing part. Or VCU choirs. Professor Fusco and I sort of created this mission of the VCU choirs, where it's VCU choirs sing to connect with community, build skills, learn repertoire, and inspire audiences. All right, we can figure out how to do that online. But it just has to be different. Don't force a square peg into a round hole. So once you look at those missions of your organizations, you have to think of your own. And this was the most important part for me. And I cannot lay claim to this phrase, but this phrase is something I learned from a webinar at Peabody Conservatory, where I went to school. And it was this: people first, content second, technology third. So even though what I'm about to give you is a whole bunch of technical information, ultimately, it's about the people first, and then hopefully we can get the content sounding pretty good and connecting to that content using the technology. So if I had made a t-shirt of that, I would have worn it every day during the pandemic, but I had that on the top of, every syllabus on my computer background. So I could remember, if the technology fails, it's okay. It's still people first. So this is kind of what we're doing now. So we're actually in person a little bit. This was a concert we did outdoors, and we decorated this courtyard, and we sang in masks, and we were freezing. But if you notice in the picture, we have a lot of extra technology. Camera here, we have a speaker here, we're wearing speakers, we have an electronic keyboard. So we needed to figure all that out. So this technology is still with us, even in this post-pandemic world. So this was an example of another concert. And again, there were some people in the audience, but we had all of these mics, and what you can't see are the cameras backstage. So we had to perform not just for the people in the audience, but for the cameras, because there were a lot of people watching from home too. So it is a new world. Now to the Zoomhearsal tips. Get your pencils ready, because there's a lot of information coming. This is a screenshot of one of our Zoomhearsals at VCU. We look happier than we probably felt at the time, because it was a difficult couple of years. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is my setup. First of all, you want to make sure you get pro or business Zoom. And it can run you about $150 to $199 a year if you're not connected with an organization that has it. But it's really important for a couple of reasons. First of all, regular Zoom cuts you off 30 or 40 or 50 minutes, depending on which one you have. But also, you have more capabilities with the pro or business. You can let more people in, you can see more people. And I'll get to the importance of seeing the people in a bit. So go ahead and invest in that. Electronic keyboard and all the cords. And I'm going to show you a picture of my setup in a second. So I'll explain it to you when I show you the picture. You need an audio interface, headphones, microphone, computer with a camera, obviously, and a computer stand. You need a second screen, maybe. You can live without it, but it's helpful, again, because you want to see your singers, and I'll tell you why later. Tall desk and stool, and I'll show you. Hardwire your computer to your router, as opposed to using wireless. I hardly had any internet issues because my husband, bless his heart, hardwired my computer in this room to the internet, as opposed to using wireless. So here's my setup. This is where I am right now. So you can see I've got this incredible keyboard that someone gave me. Then I've got the microphone here, which is this one you see in front of my face. Then this thing here, that is a Scarlett interface. Scarlett. It's called a Focusrite, Focusrite, Focusrite audio interface. And why that becomes important is because you can hear me speak, and you can hear the piano, and you can hear me sing at the same time as I play the piano, so that you could sing with me. And you're not just singing with some piano that goes in and out because it's a analog piano, so to speak. So it'd be worth it if you think that Zoomhearsals might be something that you want to continue to be able to do, to invest in one of those. And so I think the Focusrite, this little guy, the microphone, the stand, the headphones, and all the cords I found online for like 200 and something bucks, all in total, which wasn't too bad, really. Totally worth it. And that way you can adjust the volume of the keyboard and the speaking, and you can also use it to make all of those any recordings that you need to make too. The other thing that I find very important in this is the fact that I have this on a high desk. So I just stood up, stand up, sit down. It's not that different, right? So if you can at all get a tall desk, so you can stand up and sit down without having to adjust the height of the computer monitor, or not having that awkward, computer camera angle right at your midsection, that's super helpful. So I had to give up my drafting desk where I study scores for the last 2 years, which was kind of sad. But it was totally worth it. So I can stand and sit and it's all fine. Zoomhearsal tip number 2, get a monitor. For 2 straight years, my primary monitor was this person here. Her name is Allie Yablonsky, and she was on pretty much every call. And at the beginning of every call, she would share her phone number. And that was really important, particularly for those of us who aren't comfortable with Zoomhearsals or Zoom or anything technological, to give people in your ensemble the comfort of having a phone number, like a real telephone where they can call someone and ask for help. It was great. And it was used more often than I even knew. Allie was constantly taking phone calls. And so someone then even composed a piece made of her phone number, because at the beginning of every Zoomhearsal, she would give her phone number. So he made a song for her. The moderator can let people in from the waiting room. It frees up you as the director to be able to do the work. Mute and unmute people. Turn off people's videos if there's an embarrassing image, and sometimes that happens, so that's really important. Quickly remove interlopers or trolls. Can answer questions. Ideally, you'd have a monitor who knows the rep and can say, oh no, she's on page 4, or can put things in there to ease the work of the person who's running the Zoomhearsal. Provide links, check attendance, make sure the session is being recorded. That's something I always forget to do, is press record. It's so annoying. And then encourage positivity in the chat. For those of you who might be working with choirs that have a little grumpiness, to have someone who's monitoring it to make sure that people are still being kind to each other in the chat. It's important. Spotlight people as needed. Take notes on what went well. That's another thing. Often Allie would call me afterwards and say, Dr. Freeman, you should know that when you do this, it doesn't really translate well out to the rest of the group. And so it was helpful to have that ear of someone who felt comfortable enough to tell me what was working in my Zoomhearsals and what wasn't. Tip 3, record each rehearsal and then quickly post for members. And I'm going to give you some tips on that. Zoom dumps these after a while. So if you want to keep it for more than, what is it, like Lisa, 60 days or 90 days, something like that. If you want to keep it for longer, you need to then download it from Zoom. My recommendation, which is I learned the hard way, is to put all of your recordings in a shared folder. And I'll show you my shared folder at the end, so you can see what I mean. And then share the folder with everybody, so they just have access to that folder. You don't need to embed a video in anything. You don't need to do anything fancy. You just take that file, stick it in a folder, and everyone else can figure it out. Zoomhearsal tip number 4. Love this one. Use the chat function. How many of you, either as singers or as directors, are totally annoyed when people talk in rehearsal, right? Yes. Or, I mean, even if they're talking about something to do with the music, like, where are we? And it's usually the bassists, right? Who are like, wait, what page are we on? They can ask that in the chat. It's transformative now. So people can say, where are we? And people can, or what is she talking about? If someone gets slightly discombobulated, they can ask a question and someone else answers it, whether it's the monitor or someone else who's watching the chat. It's great. So encourage people to say hi to each other, interact with each other. One of the things I like to do with particularly my college choirs, but I've also done this with the symphony chorus at a Zoomhearsal, is lead them through a phrase like, Dona nobis pacem pacem. Everyone sing that with me. 1, 2, 3. Dona nobis pacem pacem. Now, write one thing that you had trouble with in there, carrying the whole phrase, or my vowel was weird, or, whatever it is. You can write that in the chat, and then I can address that. So the chat then becomes my ears, since I can't hear anybody. That's a very useful tool. And then encourage them, your singers, to ask questions in there. But a warning, this is a big warning that I did not know until halfway through the pandemic. Even private chats are stored when the video is recorded. So that means if I were to, for example, send Lisa a private message and say, Lisa, can you believe what, person in square number 4 did? Blah, 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 blah. That is recorded forever. And then someone sees the chat, they can see the private chats. So do not put anything in the private chats. Be careful what you say, save the snark for later, whatever you need to do, but just know that your chats are actually saved. Pro tip. Okay, so now you can use polls. So the poll function is kind of fun. It's for social interaction. It's a nice break from people having to sing by themselves in their own living room for a straight hour and a half. You give them a poll. You could say something like, run through a piece and then say, which page did you have the hardest time with? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And you let everyone vote on which one they had the hardest time with. And then you rehearse that page first. So again, the polls become the ears of the chorus. But again, you have to set those up ahead of time. So it can become a little cumbersome. And I know we're in a rush. So they're fun, but they can be, you need to plan ahead. Step 6, take a break. This is super important. And I do not do this enough. It is not a waste of time to take a break. 90 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or however long is a long time on Zoom. And it's a long time to sing in your living room by yourself, as you know. So you can set up break rooms by doing breakout rooms, and you can set them up randomly. So I could, for example, set up a break room and assign automatically 5 break rooms that would have 4 to 5 people in them. I could assign them manually, but that takes so much time. So, you could set up all your sopranos ahead, all your altos ahead, tenors ahead, and basses ahead, but no one has the time to do that. So, pro tip on this, you can click the option of let participants choose the room. And then say sopranos go to 1, altos go to room 2, tenors go to room 3, basses go to room 4. And then they just do it themselves. And you can pop in and help each sectional room, and they might be making a list of the things that are difficult for them. Or a section leader might be playing a recording of the soprano part, or whatever it is. Or they might be talking about, I don't know, whatever. You could give them a topic like, what do you hope for the future of the chorus? What kind of rep do you want to do? Let's see. You could give them a social topic. There's so many options, but it's really important to give everyone a break, particularly in the middle of a pandemic. Now, if these are one-off Zoom rehearsals, and we'll talk about the purpose of Zoom rehearsals after the pandemic is over, then, you might not need as much of a break as we all did in the middle of the pandemic. Step 7, sing. Have your singers sing yourself. If you're a chorus member, go ahead and sing. Your neighbors are jealous that they don't get to do what you do. So just make some big, beautiful noise. But here's some tips. As the director, you want to devise warm-ups where they're listening to or matching your vowels. Pretty easy. And the director, will sing. You can sing solfèges in canon. Okay, so those of you who remember your solfège symbols from way back in the day, everyone sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do with me. And I'll give the hand signals. Ready? And do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Now, you're going to follow my hands. I'll start with you, and then I'm going to break off and do my own thing. So you do the exact same thing. And do, re, I'm breaking off. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So you get to sing a little harmony. We could do it in seconds. We can do it in fourths, whatever, however you want to do it. But it just gives a little bit of a different feel than just sing with my piano, right? You actually get to sing with a human being. Okay, another idea is to sing one part of your piece while you sing another. So if we were doing Ave, Ave, I might sing Ave, Ave, verum corpus, so that you get a chance to sing with another part, and I would have to sing all the various parts, and then you sing your part against mine. I'm into the next tip. Use visuals. If you stand up, everyone stand up or fill your Zoom box so that your head is in the middle of your Zoom box. So let's use, for example, the big famous Dona nobis pacem pacem, right? That's in 3. So I could just ask you simply to sing that. I'll sing it with you and conduct in 3. So 1, 2, 3. Dona nobis pacem pacem. Now, let's say I know my choir, and I know that they're going to take a big old breath between the nobis and the pacem, and then it's going to be a big sloppy SE mess, right? So it's going to be Dona nobis pacem, and I don't want that. So I want you to carry that over. So, all right, everyone, show me the carryover between nobis and pacem. And I want to see everyone on the Zoom call do this with me. 1, 2, go. Dona nobis pacem pacem. Great. Now let's say I want that. Let's say I want the S on beat 3 instead. Dona nobis pacem. But I know that, choirs love to extend their S's way too much, right? So I want you to show me that S on beat 3. So it's going to be Dona nobis pacem. Ready and Dona nobis pacem pacem. So you can have your choir do all kinds of like conducting and indicating if it's short, indicating if it's legato. One, you could show the breath to make sure everyone is breathing in time. You could have them, as I said, demonstrate a carryover gesture or a final consonant. This is one of my favorite ones that I do in warm-ups. Breathe out while pushing out the sides of your Zoom box. Okay, so you're going to breathe into 2, 1, 2, and then out to 6 on an S. And you're going to push out, and you're going to strengthen your core and all that stuff that we work on in person, but we actually get to use the Zoom box for a reason. Okay, so now everyone here, hands up on the sides of your Zoom box. Doesn't that look fun now? And you get to see other people doing the same thing, and you haven't done anything with anybody in a long time. So breathe into 2 and out to 6. 2, 3, push, 4, 5, 6, breathe into 2, out to 8, 2, 3, 7, 8. So just any kind of way for people to engage with their Zoom box and feel like they're reaching out and touching the person next to them is kind of, call it fun. If you have to do a Zoom rehearsal, solfege hand signs that we already kind of did, those are super helpful. The solfege hand signs. Poke the air for a staccato. all of that kind of stuff. And then this one is also very important. When I lost my voice several years ago, I have a cyst on one of my vocal cords. I developed a series of hand gestures so that I could get the sound I wanted out of the chorus without having to use as many words. And so this is an ooh, ooh, this is an oh, this is an oh, this is an ah, this is an e, this is an eh. And so then it turns out that that's super useful to have a set of hand signals that your choir is used to, or that you can teach your choir, that then you can have them do on a Zoom room, because again, you cannot hear them, right? So, ooh, oh, or let's say with Donna Nobis Pacem, I know that there are going to be like 10 people who are going to go, do, na. Okay, no, the first vowel is oh, and then ah. So, Donna nobis pacem, pacem. And you can have people sing using the vowel shapes with their hands. Zoom tip number 9, provide normalcy. This is not a normal thing. This is not something that we want to always do. But here are the things I recommend. Even though we're all very fancy and we have PDFs and we can show them online, etc., if at all possible, distribute actual paper music so that people can write things with a pencil, so that they can stand back from the computer and not be so glued to it seeing the notes, right? They can stand back and hold their music like a normal person, and they can write in it. They can have excellent alignment of their body because they're holding their music instead of hunching over a computer. Give them markings. Insist that they write in their markings and show them. Don't let them get away with just doing their vanilla Donna Nobis Pacem. Make sure that they've written in their carryover or their S on beat 3. Make them do that. It'll make them feel like they're in a normal rehearsal. Do some of your normal warm-ups. If you have a routine, do those. Have them sit and stand as you normally would. So, you work for a while, then everyone stand up. The only thing is, sometimes you get some awkward video shots. That's what your monitor's for, right? Because if their computer is in one location and they don't have the nice setup that I do, you might have a little bit of an awkward video shot, but your monitor is there to help. Open the Zoom room early for socializing, or set up a Zoom room that people can just join without having to have a password. Involve your singers. So you can have your singers do everything we just did. So you can have one member of your chorus sing their part, and everyone else gets to harmonize with that person instead of just you all the time. You can do what we call popcorn rounds. And so you could say, okay, I'm going to sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, and then I'm going to pass it to I popcorn to Lisa Fusco, and then Lisa Fusco does it, and then she unmutes, and then she passes to Nancy, who passes it to Jennifer Kane, who passes it to Chris, and then you pass it back and forth. And I have a hack for those of you who do choruses where it wouldn't be appropriate to necessarily call someone out, and that hack is to let them volunteer. If you ask everybody who wants to volunteer to sing out loud to raise their hand, then you can do a popcorn round where people only call on people whose hands are raised, like mine. So it's a nice, convenient way, particularly for those of us who have like a symphonic choir, a community choir. You're not gonna do popcorn rounds for them. College choir, sure, make them do the work. Right? But an adult choir, that might not be the most appropriate thing to do. So there's a way to involve people who want to sing out loud. Have a volunteer give solfege signs, have speakers speak the text, and then have the rest of the chorus note how they interpreted the text, etc. So there are a lot of different ways you can get the singers involved. And then for me, this was the most important one during the entire pandemic. But create a leadership team that has developed a sense of trust in you that if they give you feedback, you're not going to be mad at them. And that's really hard. If you're a conductor, any of the conductors in this group, that's really hard for the singers to say, you know, this didn't really work, Dr. Freeman, or to go, you're still on mute, Dr. Freeman, or, you know, whatever it is, or change your camera angle, Dr. Freeman. You know, you need a set of trusted people. And so to create a leadership committee that can help you and help the rest of the chorus is really important. So those were kind of my top 10, but then I kept going. I wanted to share these things with you because I've watched a couple of other people's Zoom rehearsals. And I think the thing that strikes me about a lot of people's Zoom rehearsals is that, again, they take a regular rehearsal and they put it online. And you can't do that. So have recordings ready. And that means have recordings of you or your team of leaders doing the music in stages. So for example, they could be spoken, they could be sung, they could be with piano, they could be without piano. And I'm going to show you what I mean in a second. And you can use them in these Zoom rehearsals, and they're good practice recordings as well. So we're working on Verdi Requiem, and every Friday we do a Zoom rehearsal at VCU. And so I have created this folder. I haven't embedded it at all. They just have a folder of all the sound files. And we learned the fugue first by speaking it. Now, if I had just given them a recording of, you know, Karajan conducting the Liberame fugue from the Verdi Requiem and said, speak along with it, they would have been really discouraged. So instead, I created this sound recording. I'm going to play it and then I'm going to switch quickly to the score so you can follow along. Can you hear it? Thumbs up. You get it? And then I made it faster, and then I made it faster, and it sounds a little funny because I sped up the tempo. And then they had to practice doing it fast, right? But what that means is that they're not just like, they hear all four parts, but they get it in stages. So it's a Zoom rehearsal, not a Zoom sing-along, right? They get to hear voices. It's not just you plunking out notes. Pep talks. They work. And you know how I know they work? Because my students gave me one day, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. So don't forget that your singers, you're busy, but they're discouraged. So give them a pep talk. Say, you've got this. And then make it a short pep talk, because ultimately they're there to work. Then another short one is, when in doubt, guess. Okay, so while you're sitting there as the director and you think, there's no way I could possibly do a Zoom rehearsal because I cannot hear my choir. When you study a score, you know, you can anticipate what the problems are going to be. You know that those S's are not going to be on beat 3, but they're going to be somewhere between beat 2 and then the next downbeat. So use your professional experience to guess. Someone in the chorus is going to have done what you guessed that they would do. Their vowels are going to be too bright, and you are going to say your vowel is too bright, and they're going to freak out that you're actually able to hear them, even though you can't. This one is important. Take care of yourself. So what I mean by that is keep your Zoom room in gallery mode. That means you can see everybody, because your singers are the greatest source of inspiration for you. And if you can see them, they will keep you going. Monitor your voice usage. This is really hard on your voice, so be careful. Stand. I already went through how I have a standing desk. It's really life-saving. Alter your expectations. Do not lower them. Just alter them. So you might not be able to tune the perfect chord, but you can expect everyone to get that S on beat 3, and you can do it until you see everyone poking at the right time. Talk to your moderator. You know, get them to give you feedback. As I said, the moderator is life-saving. And then thank your singers. I don't know. I think conductors don't do that enough. They don't thank their singers for the time and energy and physical gift and musical gift that they've given. And so if you spend a little time expressing gratitude, you'll realize why you were in it in the first place. Share some tips with your choral singers. So for you directors out there, make sure your choral singers know these tips, that they can toggle back and forth between your view and the gallery view so that they too can see their colleagues singing. They don't need to stare at you the whole time. Oh, you know, so have them look at their colleagues. Set the camera. Tell your singers to set the camera so that they can stand and sit without having embarrassing screenshots. Grab a kitchen chair or exercise ball. Most people have their computer in their office with their comfy chair. Bring a dining room chair into your office so that you can sing properly and sit on your alternate feet if you're sitting and not slump over. Tell your singers, as I said before, to use the chat function. Call in if they need to. And then this is a big one. If the kids are asleep, tell them to come anyway, watch so that they can be part of the community. But then if they want to sing along, do it later when the kids are awake. You know, that kind of stuff. Give them as many tools as possible. And tell them that the more they put in, the more they'll get out. And it's so hard when you're staring at a computer. Okay, so now this is the bonus. This is the bonus slide. So we have, now that we are coming out of this pandemic, hopefully, we have started recording all of our regular rehearsals. And we Zoom them so that any singers who aren't feeling well do not set foot in the room. But they can watch and they can be a part of the rehearsal regardless. And then we record them and put them in a folder. And again, I'm going to show you those in just a minute. So the benefits are that you as the conductor can review it later. Just last night, I couldn't remember if we had gotten to one of the movements that I had planned for a hide and creation rehearsal. So I went to the recording. That's for those who are sick or out of town. You can have it archived. Heck, you could even use these Zoom recordings for a job application if you need a recording of your rehearsal. Set the computer far away from the piano because you don't have an electronic keyboard in your rehearsal room, hopefully. So set it far away from the piano so you don't get a lot of weird sounds. And test it, post the recordings quickly, and then label them beautifully. Test it, test it, test it. And then make people say hi. Those people in the Zoom room aren't happy to be there. They want to be in the room. So show the computer to the people in the room. Have someone come up and say hi. Every once in a while, wave at them. You know, they'll know that the rehearsal is for the people in the room, but look at them every once in a while. So as I mentioned, every week we record symphony chorus rehearsal, and they're just in a folder that the singers can access at any time with the dates and sort of what we did. Do, do, 3, 4, 1, and 2. Do, keep the placement. And 1, placement. That's much better. So, you know, it's at least they can see me. The visual is clear. The audio is clear. They can follow along if they want to. And that's a pretty good angle from the side because they can see the chorus, a few members of the chorus as well as me, and they're not too close to the piano. But here's another angle that actually worked really well the other day. I thought this is a Fauré Requiem with rehearsal. So again, yeah, so let's the piano is far away from the camera so you don't get that distortion, but they can see me, they can follow my conducting gesture, so when they get back to rehearsal they're used to what I'm going to be doing. That was a lot of information, but ultimately it comes down to setting up an environment where you can get something done. And so, you can use Zoomhearsals when the weather's bad. You can use Zoomhearsals if there's another flare up of Omicron or some other variant. And you can use Zoomhearsals if you're putting together a project that is, let's say, in a city like Boston, or, like Berkshire Coral International, where they do these wonderful events all around the country. And maybe it would be useful to have a couple Zoomhearsals to prepare people for the experience a couple weeks before. So now you would know how to do that. This is the sign language version of applause, and it's much easier to see on Zoom.